Welcome to sunny side of San Diego.
It's the greatest city in the history of mankind. It's a fact.
Two local San Diegans that look at obstacles as an opportunity for growth.
If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
Michael Carini is the Acrylic Alchemist.
You can call me CEO
of Carini Arts. And Vicente, Vinnie, Enriquez.
No one could do it better.
The team lead of the Enriquez group.
Ride with us.
Hey guys, so man, consistency, right? We did it 2 weeks ago? I think it was.
Was it 2 weeks? I can't tell time anymore. I couldn't. It could have been like 2 months ago. It could have been last week.
Well, anyways, we are back, and I mean this one I think is we kind of talked about. I mean, multiple topics, but kind of why do you do what you do, and with that kind of, I mean. For Mike, I mean, what drives him, I guess, or what's been driving him? Maybe for myself, what's been driving me? But Mike, what's new? What's been driving you? What's been kind of pushing you forward?
I mean, I've been having to ask myself that a lot lately because with everything going on with my recovery from my injury and the struggles of business and everything like that because of the economy this year, I really had to think about why I'm doing what I'm doing because I think a lot of times when things get difficult. Say I had a backup plan or a plan B, plan C. It's so easy to divert over to that when things aren't going right. And I had to really think about the reason that I was put on this earth and the fact that I do what I do to help people find themselves and that why, that purpose, that calling carries a weight that I need to recognize during these difficult times because I think that even people that are successful, we have times that it would be easier to quit than to keep going, but it's not always about doing the easy thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so are you doing kind of? I know we've talked about multiple times about like David Goggins, kind of, and how he has like his bucket of successes and that kind of stuff. I mean, is that kind of what's pushing you then, or what do you think?
Yeah, and then I know that there's a lot of people. So one of the things I'm really struggling with right now is because I'm kind of in this self-preservation mode. I'm very sensitive in a manner of speaking to everything going on around me. I'm very sensitive to the people in my life and noticing who seems to really care, who's really supporting me, and all the people that don't really seem to give a fuck. Mm. And that includes business partners. And so I'm really kind of reevaluating all of these relationships, the people that I work with, and really kind of everything that I'm doing right now, and really trying to shift my energy to get out of this state that I'm in, because I am in a place that I'm trying to work out of right now. I'm not in a place that I want to stay. There's valuable things that I'm getting from it, but it is not a place that I want to stay and rest for long.
What are some of the valuable things?
I'm learning what I'm made of. I'm learning that I am, again, something that I've learned time and time again, but it's always good to be reminded of and to be humbled by this, is that I can work my way out of this, and that I am going to have to be the person that works my way out of this, that I can't depend on other people. I can't depend on, significant others and relationships or even family or business partners. And that's not to say like, oh, there's no value to family business partners. It's not that at all. But ultimately, your dream comes down to you. Nobody's ever going to care about your business, your struggles as much as you are. And so it's like right now, it feels like it's me against the world. And I know that I'm kind of maybe embellishing a little bit, but that's sometimes how it feels. And I'm sure a lot of other people, when you're going through your struggles, when you're going through your go through, that it does feel like shit, this is just me. And sometimes you realize how lonely you are and how lonely the situation can be. But once you've done it a few times, you can kind of remind yourself like, okay, no, we've been here before. I've done this before. We know this. So what are we going to do about it now?
Oh, I've had that before. I mean, I had it before where I was like going through some stuff, and I was talking to a team member, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is happening. We got to get this." I mean, like you could just, I would just oozing the frustration and like the I don't know, anger. I don't know if it was that aggressive, but it was just like a strong frustration. And like they were giving me back nothing, like kind of like not like they were, it didn't feel like they were feeling me, anything like that. They was like, okay, like nothing. And I just like, I kind of stopped and I got away, and I was just like, man, you know what, like it really, it's my thing. No one's gonna, I mean, want it as bad as you. It's your thing. I mean, you have a team around you that's trying to go for that same thing, right? And ideally they buy in and they want to kind of do it. But for the most part, it's you, it's your dream, it's your platform. I mean, if it fails, it's you that failed, right? I mean, they might have lost a job, but they can find another job, but it's your dream that is gone, right? And it was one of those things that just kind of reminded me, like, I have to find other outlets to release that frustration, to get myself on track, to kind of keep pushing forward, because there's not going to be anyone, even, I mean, significant other is not going to know to the degree that you're doing. It's going to be the people that actually live and die by that decision or by that business.
Yeah, and I had to recognize that this week and kind of pull back a little bit, because I work with different people, and since I'm struggling so much with so many things right now because of my accident, my injuries and stuff, things that I still can't fully disclose, I can't even really articulate it to the people that I'm working with, or I can't make them understand the limitations that I have right now. But I'm feeling the pressure of like, okay, you know, I already am in an industry that it's difficult to survive in. So it's not like this was ever an easy thing, but now it's compounded by the fact that I can't think clearly and things take so much longer, and I have these struggles, and sometimes I can't even explain to people what I really need because I can't put my thoughts together. But I have to recognize that it is not their responsibility to care. And I know that may sound cold, it may sound harsh, but like you were just saying, it really isn't their responsibility. Everybody's kind of looking out, and it's not to say like, don't take care of other people. I think that to a degree we do. A lot of people do. But when it comes down to it, I think a lot of people, and let's ask the viewers and the listeners, when you get into your situations where you're in these real tight spots, do you find that people are actually there to help, or kind of just like they're more there to say like, oh, you know, I hope you get through this, you'll be fine, like work through it?
I think it really probably matters on where the person's located, right? I mean, like, my guess is that, or at least not a guess, but kind of like an assessment, is that people above you, right? Not necessarily above you, like they're better than you, but if success, or however you want to do it, right? However you want to word it, if you're striving to get there, or if you're on a similar pathway or similar level as them, they're probably going to come from more of abundance, right? And say, hey, you got this. I'll help you out. Let's kind of do this together. But I think the people that either don't want it or are not there, they're going to be more about, I want to see you fail. That's the way I'd probably look at it, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of times also I'll kind of go through my stuff and I'll figure it out. And then when I start posting like, oh, you know, I got through this, then I'll start seeing a big response from people like, oh, we knew you'd get through this. We knew you'd get through this. And what I equate that with, it's like what I always hear about to people not really wanting to support on the bottom. But then once you start moving up, people saying like, oh, I was in your corner all along. I knew you would do it. People supporting once they see you doing the thing. And so, I mean, I'm really reevaluating a lot of my relationships with businesses, business partners, stuff like that, because as I'm going through my struggle, I'm seeing who's not there right now. And I will remember this when I work my way out of this, because I will work my way out of it, but I will remember who was not there. And I will, you know, I'm not going to wish that, you know, poorly upon them, but I will shift my energy moving forward to the people that are there, the people that are trying to help. And if I don't have those people yet, then I will go the road alone. And I think sometimes that's just something that needs to be done too, is people need to go the road alone.
I mean, it was the other day that I was thinking about, man, I'm gonna make a phone call. I just driving or something like that. I'm gonna make a phone call someone. And it's so funny, man, when I started dissecting it, I'm like, okay, if I make a phone call to this person, are they gonna basically feed my bucket, like fill it up with water, or are they going to basically take away from my bucket? I mean, what's this conversation actually going to look like? Is it going to be something that's going to be empowering, or is it going to kind of bring me down? And it's such a powerful kind of just think about. And like it's so funny because I usually have a similar amount of people that I'll call or reach out to, right? When I'm in those moments, because those are the people that either want something more or want to see more out of you.
Yeah, and it's weird being in that place as a business owner, as somebody with a big dream, because the more I get into the dream, the more I recognize that other people don't really dream big. And it's not to knock on anybody. It's not to say, because I'm not better than anybody. But I noticed as I get further and further into my dream that other people a lot of times don't really have big dreams. Their dream is just for comfort. And it gets very difficult, more and more difficult to communicate, because I feel this disconnection with the people. And part of that goes back to my circle. You know, and a lot of times my circle is just a dot. And it's because I have had to rebuild a lot of times, and I've had to do it on my own. I haven't really had people there. And so I've learned to just kind of keep things in-house, keep things to myself, and just figure that I'm just going to be the person that cares the most. And so I'm going to have to do the work. But yeah, right now it's a little overwhelming. But, you know, life does get overwhelming at times. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that. And I think it's important also to recognize for those out there that they may look at people in certain fields and see them as successful or doing big things. But to do those big things, you have to navigate these periods. And to navigate these periods, you have to remember why you do it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're always reminding ourselves why we do it, why we're pushing forward, what's keeping us going. And I know you said the big dreams, but I think everything's relative, right? Right. I mean, my big dream could feel like a big dream, right? But I talk to someone else and they tell me their dream, and their dream just seems so huge. And it's like, am I thinking too small? Right. Yeah. So I agree. I think most people just want comfort, and some people have a dream, have a goal they want to get to. And then some people don't even, you think it's big, but it's not big enough, I guess. Right. So it's tough, but I mean, if let's say deep down, you don't feel that you have the capacity to get to wherever you want to get to, it's easier to have smaller dreams of comfort, and not fail. But I
think you could also break that down into like steps. So it's like, yeah, that I think that is important. I think that maybe it can be overwhelming for you to think of getting from A to Z. So maybe you do break it down into little baby steps of A to B. But the thing is when you hit B, then you need to set C, and then you need to set D. But I think what happens a lot of times is people hit just B, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm better than I was, so I'm going to leave it here, and we're just done.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, no, I agree. I mean, some people just put a cap on it. They say, hey, that's I'm done with this. I'm content with this. I'm happy with this. And they don't want that bigger thing. They don't want to strive for something more.
I think the good part about, you were asking earlier about what are the positives of, you know, going through the struggle in the situation. And although I don't want to stay in this mindset, and by mindset, I mean like the literal mind state, yeah, due to my accident, not just like being in a funk or something like that. It's like, this is something that was caused by something external, yeah. But it has given me a different perspective and to be able to evaluate different things. And it does make me more appreciative of how things were when I was functioning at capacity. And I just really want to get back there because I feel so limited, because we were talking about, help and whatnot, and nobody's going to care as much about your dream as you do. So when you're used to operating a certain way and then you can no longer operate in that capacity and you're like, oh, geez, I can't even get to where I was because I don't have the tools to get there. Things just aren't firing in the way that they were. It's a tough thing to navigate at times. It can be very overwhelming and it can feel very defeatist. Like, oh my God, like, can I get back there again? Can I really be who I was.
Yeah, but I think sometimes when we look at who we quote unquote were, we have revisionist history, right? We think we were maybe better than we were, or we think it was the grass was greener back then. I mean, that's I think the difficult thing is to make sure we're not painting ourselves in too big of a picture and saying that that's who we were.
Yeah, true. And sometimes stuff does happen in life, and sometimes we hit obstacles, and sometimes we are forever changed. And so in some cases, we do just need to work with whatever we have and move forward to the best of our abilities with whatever that may be.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, I guess it's easier to find a way that's quantifiable, right? How can you quantify that today I'm better in this than I was in it 2 years ago, 3 years ago? I mean, knowing what that gauge is on your life.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty I'm having right now too, because even though I can, in my mind, qualify and quantify how my brain, my body are not functioning in the way that they were previously, it's very difficult for me to contextualize that in a way that somebody else will understand, to be able to put it to paper and say, well, I don't have this because of this. Yeah. And I don't have this and I can't do this because of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I think that's something else, is that we have those limiting beliefs saying that we can't do this because we have, whatever, we don't know those people. We can't do this. I mean, one of the, I think, quote unquote, limiting beliefs that in the real estate field right now is the idea that we don't have enough inventory. There's not enough properties out there. So being there's not enough properties out there, you're not going to be able to sell business. You're not going to be able to make a living, right? And there's always going to be hurdles. It's a matter of if you can work past those hurdles.
I remember people telling me before that Novembers are the worst time for artists, and in particular election years. But November 2016 was probably I think undeniably the best month that I ever had. So I've always been a believer that there are always people looking to spend the money on art. It's just a matter of finding them. But I do have to say that 2023 was a pretty difficult year. The economy got hit, and I did notice a lot of cuts in spending. And it's the feedback I got from other artists and from galleries too, is that the spending was just down tremendously. But as the poor get poorer, the rich get richer. So there's always someone rich out there looking to buy stuff. So again, it's like, okay, well, I just got to reevaluate and change the navigation perhaps of how to find these things. The gold is always out there. You just may need to dig in different places. Yeah,
well, you got to get more creative. You got to find other opportunities. You got to find, who those people are. Sometimes even push harder than you were maybe pushing before. And just thinking smarter, I guess. Right? Like you've told me multiple times that the artist business is not like a straight line, right? I think for most businesses, it's not a straight line. And you have your seasons, right? Sometimes it's fantastic, great. It seems like everything's selling, and next days it's like not, right?
Yeah, and it can change like that, because there have been times where it's like a week or a month go by and things are just flying. It's like, okay, I'm going to be good now. I'm going to be a millionaire. And then after a flurry for like a week or a month or whatever it may be, for whatever reason, you may hit like 3 months, 6 months with not a single thing moving. And it definitely makes you question yourself, because when you just start seeing the jug being emptied out and nothing coming in it, it can be very difficult mentally, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's the I guess for artists though, right? Those rough times probably make your art feel more real, I bet, right?
Kind of. Yes and no, because my work is always just very honest, very candid about whatever I'm going through, whatever I'm feeling. Yeah. I do have to say that I find that people tend to connect more with the dark stuff in the periods, the trials, the tribulations. But I think that's because there are a lot of people out there that feel those things, but don't necessarily feel as comfortable putting them out there.
Yeah.
But that can create a very difficult scenario. And something I talked about recently on one of my live feeds, where I noticed that people were much more supportive of the work I was making when I was in a really dark place not too long ago. And it can almost mess with you psychologically, because it almost makes you feel like you need to stay in your dark place to be able to have the success and to be able to perform. So even though there was a success in a manner of speaking, it was putting me in a position that was not a successful mentality, and not a successful place for me to emotionally and spiritually and psychologically be.
Yeah. So how do you get it through that?
I guess just time. But, you know, life comes in cycles, life comes in waves. And ever since my accident, I have just been really struggling. And I'm not able to get into all the details, but the thing I'm struggling with the most right now that I can say is that I'm supposed to be taking time to heal, but I have to find a way to keep a roof over my head. So I'm having to perform and focus on performance at a time that I really need to be getting away from performing.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of caught in this vicious cycle right now. And with the difficulties that I was already having because of my industry and my business and being self-employed and whatnot, it's definitely creating a bit of a vicious cycle that I am aware of, but that does not mean that I have the solutions or the answers yet.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting is, I mean, for the most part, we're never going to have all the answers, right? Sometimes we'll only have the right questions to ask, right? But we're going to have. I wouldn't
even know if I did right now. Half the time, my brain just stops in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, I mean, but we look at it. There's answers and questions that we know that someone else wants to hear, and there's answers and questions probably that someone else knows. I mean, that most people know that we want to hear. It's just a matter of allowing to hear those answers and hear those questions, and basically other people willing to ask them the questions.
So it all comes down to timing. But unfortunately, as we get older, I become less and less of a patient person. I've always heard that, you know, patience comes with age and maturity. So maybe I'm just getting more immature, but I just feel more and more like, oh, you know, I only have so much time. And like with each significant accident or injury that happened in my life, I'm like, God, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through the next one. So I better pull everything that I need to leave here out of me.
Well, I mean, I think that's definitely a difficult thing. I mean, but there's also, I think there's also people out there that take your time, that soak up your time, and you got to be careful of that. I mean, because that can, I mean, that's a painful thing right there.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that I do live an isolated life of separation and solitude. It does allow me to kind of compartmentalize to a degree, but also it means that I don't necessarily have a lot of people there. So it's like every positive has a negative, every negative has a positive, and it's about finding that balance of sorts. But again, sometimes when you have a big dream, you can't always be completely balanced, because sometimes you need to be a little obsessed or one-track minded, because if you want to get where other people haven't been, you got to do what other people haven't done. And sometimes that means having a laser-like focus and just being diligent on the road less traveled.
Yeah. Well, any last thoughts you want to throw out there?
I am so scattered in my thoughts today. I was amazed that I was able to get out what I did.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, maybe the next one we'll actually get some questions that kind of just go over some questions from the listeners out there, and kind of talk those through. I think that would be kind of like a fun little thing. Kind of, yeah, build up those questions. But anyways, thank you guys for either watching, listening. Please reach out, subscribe. We're planning to do this on a more consistent basis, so it's not going to be a gap of a couple of years. So thanks, guys. Talk to you on the next one.
Welcome to Sunny Side.